Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be building a subterranean circle home. So the sort of like base plot area for this house, where like the livable part of the house is going to be, is the circle part, and then the actual sort of livable space is actually a rectangle. So the sort of like base underground section is where the circle comes from, but the inside of the house does have sort of like rounded walls on either side of it. Hopefully this will make sense as we go through and I start like decorating it, and after seeing the like build screenshots and then the tour and stuff like that, like the little empty house tour. So yeah, that is what we are going to be building today. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what you think in the comments, everything like that. Subscribe if you would like to as well. So this build has a little bit of inspiration from a couple of different sort of like things. So the first sort of like big thing is I just wanted to build another underground home, but I didn't want it to be like the past underground homes that I've built, where they have been sort of very much covered in earth and rocks and plants and stuff like that. This one is covered a little bit in like plants and flowers and stuff like that around like the outskirts of the house, and then sort of like the main living section does have like earth or like grass above it, but it's not fully sort of like encased like the other underground homes that I've done. The second bit of like inspiration for this one is I saw this image, and the sort of like shell is very much based off of that, so I'll pop that on screen. So the outside of the build is really where the circle-ness comes in, because it's kind of hard to build. Like, it's not impossible to build like rounded walls in House Flipper 2, but to build actual like circle rooms and have them look like a circle without hiding the sort of like brick or triangle piece that is on the back of them. If you know the resizable blocks that I'm on about, then hopefully this is making sense. But if I was to remove the ground, like the earth around the exterior of this house, it would be like a circle in the middle, but the outside section wouldn't be a circle because it would have like sharp like right angle edges. What I used for this one was the two sort of like semicircle resizable blocks, and I made them the exact same size and then just like put them together and sunk them into the floor to create sort of like the circle, and then I hit them as much as I possibly could with the sort of like earth, and then I painted the top of them with the it was sort of like a grassy color and then I put plants around the edges of them as well because of the way that it was, because I had to remove the section of grass like with the tool where you can create the hole in the floor. The edges, because obviously like House Flipper is done in like squares, so you could always see sort of like little jagged edges of the squares around the edge of the like circle piece. So I tried to hide it as much as possible with the bushes, which is why there's bushes so like surrounding the whole circle. But I'm really, really happy with how this build turns out. I really, really do like how it turned out. So yeah, the image was inspiration for this build, and then the theme for this one was inspired by the picturesque loft that I did, the renovation that I did where I did like a dusty pink apartment. That was the inspiration for the theme for this one, because I wanted it to be pink and grey. So that's the overall theme for this one. I wanted the sort of like main shell to be very sort of concrete, and then I wanted the interior to be very sort of grey and pink and stuff like that. So those are sort of like the inspirations for this build, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. So the actual livable space is like a rectangle, and it has a office, a kitchen, a living room, a bathroom, a bedroom, and then it has like a little patio outside space, and that has a little sort of outdoor kitchen, a couple of plants, a little seating area, and then a little like dining table area as well. So there's not like tons and tons that goes on in this build. It is quite simple, especially the exterior. The exterior for this one is very simple, but I really like how it turned out, and it definitely does have that sort of like grey pink theme, which I was going for. May not be everybody's cup of tea, but I was really excited to start doing this one. So yeah, really happy with how it turned out. As always, do let me know in the comments what you think. Leave a like if you would like it. I really do appreciate any and all the support you guys can leave on the videos. You guys have been amazing through like all of my custom builds and just house flipper videos in general, so I really do appreciate you. So thank you so much for being here. So like usual, we start off this build with the build screens, and then I go on like a little empty tour, and then I actually built the walls and stuff in this house, so like with you guys, rather than like the interior walls also being stop motion. I just left markers on the floor for like where I would want them to go. So the house as a whole is very open. It's like very open. The only rooms that are really closed off is the bathroom, and then a little sort of storage closet thing, which I put the washing machine and tumble dryer in. But everything else in the build is very open, because I didn't want windows on both sides. I only wanted one side of the build to have windows in it, and that's the side that goes out into like the so like the little courtyard, little garden area, I guess, but there's not really much grass. So yeah, I knew I wanted it to only have windows on one side, and I wanted it to be pretty much the walls. The whole wall was going to be like windows. There's a couple of little gaps, just for I guess like a structural purpose, but literally the whole wall is pretty much one giant window. So not even the bedroom is separated by a door. You can kind of just like walk into the bedroom from the living room and not like go through a door. It's like down a corridor, but yeah, it's very open. This build is very open. So from the inspiration image, that does seem to have like windows on like both sides of the like little building that's in the middle of it. I'm not sure if it is actually like a house or anything, but yeah, that does have windows on the both sides, but I only wanted windows on one side because I wanted the entrance to the house to be sort of like a driveway. There's some bikes that I end up putting out there, a car and stuff like that, and I wanted it so you have like a slope to drive down. And I feel really stupid sometimes when I like build houses and stuff, if I ever want like a driveway or something like that where it kind of like you go down like a slope to the garage, or you have like a driveway on an incline or something like that. I always I get the car out of the store, and then I sort of like try to maneuver it as if it was real to sort of like go down the slope and like into the garage or into the parking space or stuff like that, to try and get a feeling as to if it would work in real life. And I did that with this build, and every time I do it I feel so stupid about it, but I try to, and I really like to try to make the builds like if you were to pick this up and put it somewhere, it would like be realistic in certain ways. Obviously not in the way of like plumbing and stuff like that. I do put some what are they called, like drains out in the sort of like courtyard and the entrance area, just to act as, you know, if it rains a lot, you know, you don't want to get like flooded in your house. It's actually like below ground level. So yeah, I put some drains in and stuff like that, but you know, plumbing could be worked out if this was just like plucked up and put somewhere in real life. But yeah, I do that with the cars, and every time I do it I feel really silly about it, but it's just a habit that I have, because sometimes when I put in, especially if it's quite like a deep slope to go down to the garage or anything like that, sometimes I feel like they can look like literally like a cliff. So I feel like they have to be really, really long in order for them to be sort of, I guess, like functional in a real life setting. So I like to do that sometimes, but every time I do it I just feel a bit silly about it. But there we go. But yeah, so the house is very open. We're starting off in the kitchen for this one. So I did mention in my previous video that this whole build was actually finished pretty much apart from me doing the tour, because I know I wanted to add a couple of the Sakura DLC items. Honestly, didn't add as many as what I was expecting because the build was like pretty much completely finished by the time that had come out. But yeah, this build was finished before the Sakura DLC come out, so before I did all of the Sakura videos, and even before I posted the video that has come out before this one, the Japanese home, which I am still in love with that house so much. I really, really love it. I couldn't be more happy with how that one turned out. But yeah, this one was finished before all of those come out. I just didn't want to rush posting it because I knew I wanted to make the Sakura stuff a priority, and I wanted to get at least one of my sort of custom builds for like that was based around the Sakura DLC out before this one. So yeah, this was done. So as I'm like going around and doing stuff, you'll notice that the items, when I'm moving them and stuff, they have the blue outline. And that's actually been removed now, which, so for me, I'm like so incredibly happy that that has been removed. I really, really did not like that when that was implemented. It was messing with my eyes and I couldn't precisely sort of like see where I was moving stuff. So personal preference, I'm very happy that that has been removed. So from my standpoint, I'm like, I really, really hope that they don't bring it back. But seeing that it did like help some people, if it was to ever come back, I really feel like the best thing would be to have an option, because I'm so happy that the blue outline is no longer there. I'm really, really happy about that. Like, I really love the simplicity of like sandbox mode in general, and just like stuff like that. And the blue outline, for me, I found it so hard to like line things up sometimes, especially if I'm using the move tool, not on like the snapping. But do let me know in the comments whether you guys enjoyed like if you liked the blue outline or if you didn't like the blue outline. Let me know in the comments because I'd be curious to know. But yeah, I'm really happy that it's no longer there. Okay, so editing jelly here. I just wanted to interject and add a little extra, as they have now actually brought it back. I'm so disappointed, but I would have felt super silly if I just left the whole section in about being so happy that they removed it, to then by the time this video goes up, it be back in. I wanted to leave at least like the first part about being so happy it was removed and hoping they don't bring it back, just because really. And if they did bring it back, for it to be like an option, but alas, it is actually back and it wasn't an option, which is really, really disappointing, like for me personally. It still messes with my eyes, but unfortunately, again, it's just something that I'm gonna have to get used to again, which is just going to be sort of inconvenient and annoying. But yeah, I just wanted to put this bit in here. I'm incredibly disappointed it wasn't added back as an option. It wasn't there when the game first came out, and then they added it, and then they removed it, and then they added it back without an option. It's just incredibly frustrating, and in my case, an eyesore, as I make like I like making a lot of custom items and using the move tool, and it's just so jarring for me trying to make sure that things are lined up properly with the obnoxious blue outline, because it's so much thicker. It's so much thicker than the actual item, and I think it's that more than anything that personally throws me off, because it's not the same size as the item. It's like a good like chunk bigger. So it's like you have the item and then you have this huge blue outline around it. It's just, for me personally, it's just not something that is helpful, and it really does mess with my eyes. But yeah, there's not really anything I can do about it, unfortunately. Just, I guess, hope that they do add in an option for it down the line, because the original house slipper does have an option for it, but the original house slipper as well, the outline is nowhere near as thick as the one in House Slipper 2. So like it was bearable and it was there from the get-go, so you know, it wasn't like so much of a big issue. But this blue one, just personally for me, I really don't like it, and I find it so hard to like do anything. But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add this in here, as I would have felt silly not addressing it, that it is like actually back now. It sucks for me, but I can only hope that one day it will be an option, so that, you know, it helps out those people that do like it and want it, but then also those that don't like it also are able to turn it off. I think an option just would be 100% the best choice, and I don't see how it wouldn't be possible, as there's the option for it in the first game, and the second one didn't originally have it. Then they added it, then they took it away, then they added it again. So having it as an option, I think, is very viable. But yeah, we'll have to see, and it's just something that I'll have to get used to again. It's a bit unfortunate because the next build after this one, the majority of that, I think the entirety of that build, is actually done without the blue outline. So yeah, but yeah, sorry, I just wanted to put this in here. So with that out of the way, I'll hand back over to Past Me and we can finish chatting about this build. But yeah, this was a build that was just finished completely before the whole like Sakura stuff and everything like that come out, so things might look slightly different in this video. And as I said in the previous one as well, I have gone in and I've added a few of the Sakura items to this build, but honestly not as many as what I was expecting to add. I was expecting to add tons and tons of them, but because this build was pretty much, you know, it was pretty much done really, other than just like doing the tour and potentially adding a few items from the Sakura DLC. This one, I was just happy with how it looked, so I didn't really add too much of the new items. I added a few plants and like books and little decorative bits, but that was about it. So you guys will see that stuff in the tour as I went in, and I added a few little bits off camera just before I did the tour and stuff. But yeah, moving on to sort of like the room that we start in first. So as this is sort of really open plan, I have been trying really hard to stick to one room at a time. I know before, sometimes in builds, because I like to do the timestamps and stuff, I've been doing them for a while, but because I really like the idea of the timestamps and stuff, I really want to try and keep each room to sort of like its room, and not try and be like, you know, I'm doing the kitchen and then I like find something in the store, or I randomly think of something, so then I start like putting stuff in another room or something like that. It does still happen because I get very sidetracked and a little bit all over the place, maybe a little bit chaotic, if you will. But yeah, I've been trying really hard to sort of like stick to one room at a time, just so it makes more sense for the timestamps as well. So starting off this one, it's sort of like a combination of the kitchen and the entrance, mainly starting off in the kitchen area. I did put in the sofa because I wanted to sort of like gauge where the sofa would be and how long I wanted the kitchen counters and the breakfast bar and everything like that. So yeah, it's a very open plan, but we are sticking to the kitchen to begin with. So as it's a pink and grey theme, this was the build that I was talking about in my previous build, the Japanese one, that I made the countertops in this house fully concrete. So for this build, I really wanted like concrete countertops, and as I mentioned in the Japanese one, the countertops that we have like the choice from, there's none that are like actual concrete, and I would really love it still for like the countertops to be able to be sort of concrete. So in this build I do show me sort of makeshifting the countertops, and it took a little bit of fiddling, so like off camera. I got the general sort of like idea of how I wanted it to be, but sinking it in using the move tool and everything like that, it will just like blip and everything will be, you know, set in place and stuff. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I just wish it was actually a choice for the countertops to be the concrete, or like the new one, which is the lime wash. I think I called it limestone in the last video, but I'm pretty sure it's a lime wash. But yeah, I really wanted a concrete counter space in this build, as it was going with like the theme and everything. And I knew I could do it, but I knew it would just be a little bit fiddly. I used the shelf pieces instead of the resizable blocks, because you still can't like place items on the resizable block that I'm aware of. So I used the resizable shelf, as well as the resizable shelf is quite thick anyway, and you can place stuff on it, so it eliminates like an extra step of placing down the resizable square and then having to sink in a shelf or something to be able to like put things on the countertop and stuff. So I just used the resizable windowsill. Sorry, I think I called it a shelf. I think it's the windowsill. But yeah, I used that for the counter space in the kitchen, and really happy with how it turned out. I did the breakfast bar and everything, and the most like fiddly part was doing the sink, because the sink, obviously you want the sink to be a sink so you want it to keep the hole in it. So that was probably the most like annoying part of that to do, but really pleased with how it turns out. And just the build in general, it's very grey and very pink. It's not like, I don't think it's obnoxious pink, it's sort of like a baby pink, dusty pink, pastel pink, that sort of thing. It's not like too much in your face, but it is very pink and grey, and that is exactly what I wanted for this build. There's another part of the kitchen which I really like, which is the shelves I made, and you can sort of like see through. I mean, you can see the living room pretty much from the kitchen anyway, but I didn't really want kitchen cupboards because I wanted the place to be really sort of like open plan. I didn't really know how I would fit in kitchen cupboards for like storage and stuff like that, so I ended up making a sort of like a layered shelf. And it's kind of like, you know, the higher up the shelves, maybe the items up there are not the ones that you would want to grab on a regular basis, but there's like a stool that you could keep under the sink or stuff like that to, you know, so that you could reach the top shelves and that. But I really liked how it turned out. I don't know why, I just really liked how it turned out. So yeah, there's like a shelf in the kitchen instead of cupboards, so it's just got, you know, plates, cups, bowls, everything like that. I'm really happy that some of the plates and stuff stack, but one of the bowls still doesn't stack, and you can easily stack them using the move tool. On the snapping, it's like so much easier to do it on the snapping, but you can definitely like make a stack of the deeper bowls yourself, but it would be really cool if they did actually like stack. But yeah, just like plates, bowls, cups, different things like that, like coffee and jars and just cookbooks and salt, pepper, butter dish, anything like that that you would like need to either cook or make a drink or stuff like that. So yeah, there's like a big shelf unit, and I love how that turned out. And then I do end up putting in a coffee machine and stuff. I was a little bit unsure to begin with as to like where I wanted the coffee machine and that, but it fits quite nicely between the oven and the shelf, so that's where it ends up just that's where it ends up sitting. And then the other side, sort of like between the fridge and the oven, is where all the spices and different like bits and bobs like that go. So overall, really happy with the kitchen. Then you have like the big island, which is like prep space and stuff. I do sink in so like a plug into the countertop, sort of like, you know, in houses you can get, I mean, some like breakfast bars, on the end of them they have sort of like plugs and stuff, but then some of the like, you know, more posh places they have the ones where if you touch the top of the it's like a sunken in like plug unit, and if you touch the top of it then it like rises out and it's got like plugs on it and stuff. I find them really fancy, but I also find them like, I feel like I don't know if I would want one specifically, because I'd be worried that, you know, it would break, or like it would be like a huge pain in the butt to like fix if it went wrong or anything like that. But those are really fancy, I think, anyway. But yeah, so I did put a plug on the like end of the breakfast bar area, so like close to the sofa. It's just like an extra thing. Maybe you want to work on your laptop at the kitchen, or maybe you need to put your phone on charge while you're doing like cooking and stuff like that. So I thought that that would be handy, as really in the kitchen, the only place that you really have room for like a plug for oh yeah, appliances could be another thing that that plug could be used for, obviously. But like the only other areas where you could really put a plug sort of on the wall, like for the coffee machine and stuff, is that wall where like, you know, the fridge and the oven is. So yeah, I thought that having one sort of on the breakfast bar counter space sunken in would be really cool. So I did that as well in the kitchen. So even though I wanted this build to be pretty much like pink and grey, I do put in some wood tones, textures, colors, however you want to say it. I do put in some wood. It's sort of like, I don't know, it's one of my favorite sort of wood textures to use in the game. Again, I'm so sorry, do not know the name of it, but it's one of the more like pale ones, and if you have it on one of the drab colors, I think it's like a drab yellow or something, but it just like creates this like really nice sort of neutral brown wood color, and that's like sort of my go-to when I want a little bit of wood in a house that isn't like dark. It's the most used color for me, or like wood texture as well, if I want to go for a sort of like neutral house. That's definitely a sort of a go-to for me, because it just like looks really nice, and honestly it goes with like any color. So I do have little pops of like the neutral sort of wood throughout the house as well. But once I'm pretty much done with the kitchen, I move on to the entrance, which is literally like right next to the kitchen. Just putting in some sort of shoe storage and stuff. The entrance actually took me a little bit of time to figure out. I don't know why. I don't know why the entrance was giving me so much trouble. I just wasn't liking everything that I was doing, but I settled on just like a little shoe storage, some hooks for some coats, a mirror and stuff like that. I put down a cushion on top of the shoe storage to act as, you know, it could act as a seat, so you take your shoes off or put them on and stuff like that. So then once I'm done with the kitchen and the entranceway, I move on to the living room. So the living room, you know, it's just quite open plan. It's a very grey. I did think about having a fireplace in the living room, because the sort of like chunk of wall that's in the living room, if you saw at the beginning when I actually went in and I built the walls like with you guys, rather than doing the stop motion of the interior walls, the section in the living room that I create with some shelves and stuff, that is like a really thick that's a really thick section of wall. So I knew that I wanted some sort of like built-in storage and stuff there, and then that ends up just holding like some decorative bits, some books, a like games console and stuff like that. But I thought that was a nice addition because the whole house overall, like, there's not tons of storage in this house. I think that's one thing that I didn't really do a lot of, is that there's really not much storage in this house, and the storage that there is, it can only really go on the one wall. If it wants to be like built-in storage or anything, it can only really go on the one wall, because only one wall really in this place is flat, as the like one side is full of windows, and then the two end pieces are actually curved because they are sort of like what is the exterior wall coming onto the inside. Hopefully this makes sense and it's not too confusing, or like hopefully it makes sense like throughout the build or anything like that. But yeah, so there's not really many like flat walls in the house where you could put like storage, and then as I wanted it to be really open plan, yeah, there just really isn't a lot of room for storage. So I thought having a built-in section in the living room where I could put things like a games console, DVD player, video player, stuff like that, along with books and also decorative pieces like plants and vases and just like little bits and bobs like that. I thought that that was the perfect section. And then I go in and I add like a light to the sunken in so like shelf section, and it's an LED light, and I end up making that pink, and I show you that through the tour, and I think it looks really, really nice. And I don't use the LED lights very much with like actual colors unless it's like specifically for a build or something, like the man cave that I did. I really, really loved how that turned out, but that one I did use the LED lights like for actual colors. Normally I just use them for things like under counter or like cupboard lighting in kitchens and stuff like that, and then they're always normally either on the light option or the warm option. I don't really use them a lot with like actual colors, so this one was a good chance to actually use a color. So of course I chose pink as that's like the theme for the build. So with the living room section as well, it was looking kind of like really empty to me. I don't know what it was. There was a few parts in this build, although like I really do like how it turned out overall. There's a few parts of it that as I was like decorating and stuff like that, I was just, not that I was like really not liking them, but I was just, I don't know, it just wasn't coming together sort of how I had imagined it to like come together. So it was kind of like annoying me a little bit, just the living room and other little areas of this build. But overall I'm happy with how it turned out. But the living room just felt kind of empty to me for like the longest time. But I don't end up showing it, sorry. But in the tour and stuff, I do end up going into the living room and adding in a fireplace. And it's a little bit of a weird fireplace because it's kind of like, I've got a section in the living room which you guys will see hopefully. And it's like a big shelf section underneath the TV. And, you know, I could just thought you could use it as storage, put decorative bits there, whatnot. And it was looking just really, really empty. So what I end up doing is getting a fireplace, one of the new ones, one of the ones where it's like the glass and they sit on the wall. So I rotated it and then I sunk it into the section under the TV. So it's like a fireplace that's kind of like built into the floor, but it's not the floor, it's like the section just under the TV. Hopefully it makes sense, like when you guys see the tour and stuff like that. Hopefully you'll get what I mean. But that was a sort of last minute decision as well, just because once the living room was like done, I was still thinking that it was like missing something, and I don't know. Like, I do like the living room, but I don't know if it's just like missing something. I didn't want to make it too cluttered with like loads of pictures on the walls and stuff. I do mess around with a few like picture frames and stuff like that, but just they felt so out of place. I don't know if it was because the kitchen and the living room sort of like just blend in with each other because it's so like open or what, but I don't know, it was just the living room was just giving me a little bit of a I wasn't liking it, but then I was liking it, and then it was just looked a little bit empty. But yeah, overall I do end up liking the living room, even though to me I still feel like it is a little bit it's very simple. It's not like it's like a complicated living room or anything. I don't know what it is about it. I think it was just a big empty wall. But the texture on the wall gives it a little bit of something, so it didn't really need a picture or anything on it. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of the living room. If you think that there should have been like some pictures or anything like that that I should have added to the living room wall, let me know, because I'd be curious to know what you guys think of the living room, what you would have done differently, if you would have like added anything to the walls, or if you would have just like laid out the living room completely different. Do let me know. The living room is also obviously like to go along with the theme, very sort of grey and pink, and I don't know if it was that was like throwing me off. The sofa colour I just couldn't get right. But yeah, I think I like the like pops of color that are on the sofa, because I knew I wanted a dark sofa. I didn't want a really like sort of light pink sofa or anything, because I knew I wanted the back wall to be the sort of like a dusty pink, so like concrete look. So I didn't want a pink sofa as well. I wanted a darker sofa, but all of the sort of like greys or the black that I was using for the sofa when I was testing it out, I just wasn't liking any of them, and they just felt a little bit too, I don't know, they just didn't feel right. But I got there in the end. And yeah, I'm happy with how the living room turns out. So once I am then done with the living room, I move on to the office area. So the office area for this build is, as you come through the entrance, like you've come through the front door, the office is to the left, and I've made it in its own like little corner, so you know, if whoever has this house, they work from home, you know, it's like a little separate area for them to go and work in, rather than it being sort of like in the house. So it, like, you know, the work and home life type thing, whatnot. So yeah, the office is sort of like tucked around that corner, and I used one of the resizable block pieces to create a sort of curve, just to go along with the general like theme of the house, with it being sort of like a circle-ish. I wanted the inside to at least have something that would resemble that sort of like circle roundedness as well. So I decided to, because the one side of the house is completely windows. Again, I couldn't like, I mean, I could have, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to like have the rooms be like completely separate by like walls and doors, because I knew I wanted like all of the windows and stuff. So I wanted a little bit of separation. So I used the one of the resizable blocks to try and create that. I think that it works. It definitely separates like the office from the rest of the house, which is pretty much the end goal. So I'm gonna count it as a win. But yeah, the office is, you know, it's just an office really. It's got desk, chair, stuff like that. It's got a little storage shelf and bits and bobs. I did go around before I started doing the office, which you guys will see, and there is tons and tons of stuff on the floor. There's like any type of office item that I thought I might want to use, I put it down on the floor in the kitchen so that I could just grab it. And it would hopefully alleviate me going into the store too many times. But I still definitely had to go into the store for some bits and bobs. But yeah, I really do like how the office turns out. So there's a little shelf unit that I put in the office, which you guys will see, and it's up against the exterior wall. And the exterior wall is obviously curved, so it wouldn't go flush. So I did use the move tool and just move it sort of like as close as I possibly could. But you can definitely see that like it's not like a super sharp like rounded corner like the edges of the house, because it's so big. But you can definitely see that the wall is like rounded, and I really like that look throughout like both ends of the house. Obviously you've got the one end which I've made the office, and then you've got the other end of the house which I've made the bedroom. And I really like that you can still see the sort of like roundedness. I could have like made it a complete flat wall, but I really like the idea of being able to see the sort of like outside of the house come onto the inside of the house. Hopefully this makes sense. I really do hope that it makes sense. But yeah, I really did like the fact that I could still see the like rounded shape from the outside on the inside. It's quite subtle, but it's definitely there. And then it definitely made adding the like some furniture pieces, the shelf in the office, and then the wardrobes in the bedroom, it made that a little bit difficult, but it was definitely doable. But yeah, the office is just full of books and sort of like working stuff. I don't know who owns this house, what they could do, but there's a couple of cork boards that I put on the wall with like information, photos, like contracts, that sort of thing. And yeah, really happy with how the office turns out. There's just like lots of decorative bits in the office just to try and make it feel like a real like working space and stuff. I did mess around with a shelf in the office like above the desk for the longest time, or it felt like really long, because I knew I wanted a shelf, because as I said, there's not like much room in the way of storage. I probably definitely could have laid out the house differently to account for like a lot more storage, but I mean, this is definitely not a minimalist house by any means. Definitely not. But like, who could own this house if it wasn't the person who, you know, in my head owns it, who wants it like a pink and grey theme? If it was anybody else, it could definitely be like such a minimal so like a really minimalist house, if like that's what you wanted it to be. But yeah, there's just not much in the way of storage, so I popped a couple of shelves in the office, but mainly there's like the one storage unit with books and stuff like that on it. But yeah, that's the office. And then when I am done with the office, I just move on to the little like laundry closet, which isn't really exciting. It's just a closet with a washing machine, tumble dryer, a couple of shelves with some laundry stuff on it, a light, and I'm pretty sure that I put a vent in there. But yeah, you know, it's pretty simple. It's just the laundry place. Again, I do use the little tubs that can have I think it's sugar in them. I think we can have rice in them now. But I use those and I pretend that they're like laundry detergent and stuff like that. But yeah, and then when I'm done with the little laundry room, I move on to the bathroom. Now, the bathroom first look, it might look a little bit weird. And I would definitely agree that it does look a little bit weird, because the bathroom, obviously, where I said that I didn't want I only wanted windows on one side of the house, the bathroom would have had like no windows in it whatsoever. So I had this weird idea for it to have a window in the bathroom, so like in the house. So you walk like past the bathroom to get to the bedroom. I don't think I'm explaining this very well, but the room where the bathroom is, it has a window on it, which goes into the sort of like house area. And then that also, because there's windows on the other side of the building, you can kind of like, if you're in the bath, you can look out into the courtyard area. I really hope that I'm explaining this like well enough. Probably not, knowing me, because I'm really bad at explaining things, but hopefully when we get to the bathroom and through the tour and stuff, you guys will understand what I mean. But I know it might look a little bit weird, but I was thinking, you can get, if we could change the glass panels, like, because I use the glass wall pieces to make the windows and everything for this house. If we could change the color of them, then that would be really cool. But as far as I'm aware, we still can't. But what I was thinking is, I know like in real life, you can get these windows where if you flick a switch, they go from like being opaque to transparent and vice versa. So I was thinking that the big window that's in the bathroom could be like that. So it's not like fully open all the time. You can have privacy for using like the bathroom if you want, or stuff like that. So that's what I was thinking when I was building the bathroom and putting in the window, because don't get me wrong, I do think that it looks a little bit weird. I do think it looks weird to have the window in the bathroom, but with what I was thinking, I think that it would work out fine. But obviously, like, in the game we don't really have anything that's like that, so that I was just thinking that in my head. But I do go in and I do add a fence piece to the bathroom section, just as a little bit more privacy. It's, again, like, you can still like really clearly see through, sorry, but just as like a little bit of added privacy, if you wanted to like look out of the window but you didn't want, just like if you wanted to look out of the window and you didn't want to have like the frosted glass or anything like that, that's what I was thinking of when I add a little bit of fence, which you guys will see either in the tour or like later on in the video. Again, I really hope that I'm making sense. I feel like I'm not, but I hope that I'm slightly making sense. But yeah, that was the whole idea of like having a window in the bathroom, because I know that's a bit weird. It's definitely not a design choice that I would personally make in a house. Even if I had this house, it probably wouldn't be a design choice that I would make. I'd maybe have a window, but it would be like really high up and it would just be for like light purposes. But yeah, it's a design choice and it's there. So let me know what you think about it, and if you know what I'm on about, like the idea of having, in real life where you can turn the lights, you can turn like windows into like opaque or transparent, stuff like that. But yeah, that's what I was thinking of for this window in the bathroom. So a little bit weird, but I think it definitely works. The other thing that I did in the bathroom, as I keep saying, there wasn't very much room in the way of storage, so I added like a little storage section to the shower, and then also I add a little storage section to, as you walk through the bathroom door, right in front of you, I add in some built-in storage in the wall. It was a little bit fiddly to do because I couldn't quite get it right, but I do like how it ends up, rather than it being sort of like circles to go along with the like the roundedness of the house. I do make the storage sections in the bathroom be more so like angular, like triangles, stuff like that. So I really like how they turned out, and it's just like a little bit of extra storage. This house, as it's only got the one bedroom, I really don't think that it would be, maybe like only one person that lives here, obviously only like two max. But yeah, I'm really happy with how the bathroom turns out. I think overall, the bathroom is my favorite looking place in this build. I do really love the kitchen, but I also really love the bathroom. I think it's a combination of the tiles that I use and just the colors I don't know what it is. I just really, really like it. Do let me know, as always. Like, I always really like to know if you guys have like a favorite room in any of the builds and stuff that I make. Do let me know. So that is pretty much the bathroom. It's got a separate like bath, shower, toilet, sink, and some built-in storage. I do really like what I do with the bath section. With like I put like a little stool, and then on the stool I put like a towel and then like some cosmetic stuff, and I was just thinking it could be like a really nice place to chill, read a book, all that kind of stuff. Obviously I feel like it would be like quite private because you're sort of like underground type thing, but obviously this would be the type of house where you probably wouldn't really have neighbors that were close. So yeah, that is the bathroom, and then once I'm done with the bathroom, I move on to the bedroom. So the bedroom for this house, as I said, you can pretty much just like walk straight into the bedroom. There's no door or anything separating it, and it took me a little bit of time to figure out the bedroom, mainly the wardrobes, because I really didn't think about where I would stick the wardrobes, and where I put the bed. I didn't want the wardrobes on like the flat wall, which is actually the wall to the bathroom, because I felt like it closed it in too much. So the wardrobes that I do end up putting into the bedroom, I use the move tool, and like what I did with the office area where I used the move tool and I just ever so slightly moved back the shelf unit, so it was just like very like slightly touching the wall. I do the same thing in the bedroom with the wardrobes that I end up using, but the bedroom is another one of those rooms in this house that just ends up being quite simple. There's not tons and tons that I put into the bedroom. It is very, I mean, I would say it's kind of minimalist. It's got like 2 wardrobes, the bed, and like a little desk, like a little vanity desk. So I would say it's kind of minimal. It's not like super minimalist, but it is very minimal. But yeah, it's just got the bed. The bedside tables for the bedroom, I do end up custom making them, and I think that's something that I just really, really love about House of Batu is the amount of like freedom and stuff you can have with creating some custom items and bits and bobs like that. I just really, really like trying to use different items to create other items, if that makes sense. Like the amount of times that I've used a random item to act as like a handle for like a makeshift wardrobe or a cupboard or something like that. I think that is just really fun to try and use random items to make other items, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just really, really love the freedom in House of Batu. But yeah, the bedside tables are custom made, and I made them like identical to each other. As I said, I do put a vanity in the bedroom, just with like a stool, some perfumes, a little bit of makeup, mirror, some plants, stuff like that. And then there's 2 wardrobes and a little a plant shelf. It's one of my favorite sort of plant shelves to use. I put that in the bedroom as well because I thought that the bedroom needed some more color that wasn't just grey and pink. I know like the overall theme of the build is very grey pink, and then that sort of like wood color that I use, but I wanted a little bit of like color to the bedroom in the way of like plants. I mean, there's a lot of plants around the whole house. I said in a couple of builds, I don't know what it is, I just really like adding plants to builds because they just, I don't know, they just add something. Like if I'm ever thinking that I'm missing something, it's probably a plant. I feel like a lot better about a build sometimes once I've put like a plant in. It just adds some nice color. So the other thing that I custom make in the bedroom is the lights for like the bedside tables. I custom make those. I stick 2 lights on top of each other. They kind of end up looking like sources. But I really like how they turned out, and whenever I do something like that, I think I've said this in another build as well, I'll always have it so only one of the lights comes on, because sometimes I feel like having both of them come on is a little bit too bright. So whenever I sort of sometimes mash two lights together, I'll normally always only have one of them come on, like especially if it's tied to a light switch or something like that, and then the other one is just like purely as if it's part of it. But yeah, so yeah, the bedroom turns out very pink and grey. I do use a nice patterned wallpaper for the bedroom as well, and it's really the only place in the build that I use a like a patterned wallpaper. There's other patterns around in the house and like cushions and rugs and stuff like that, but I really like the wallpaper. That wallpaper specifically is like the perfect wallpaper if I'm doing like a retro or mid-century build, but it works out really well. When we get to that room, you'll see it. So yeah, the bedroom does end up being very pink and grey, but it goes with the theme, so I'm happy with it. And then once I'm done with the bedroom, I go out and I do the sort of like garden, courtyard area, what have you. It's very simple. I wasn't too sure what I wanted out here. It's really quite simple. But there's a little seating area, and then there's like a dining table, and I do end up making a sort of, I was finding it really hard because of the curve of the resizable wall. It wasn't really working out how I wanted it to, but it was just, I think it was just me trying to make it a little bit too complicated. But I do end up making it work, and I put in some counters along the wall, and I put in a sort of like stovetop, and I'm acting as if it's like a little outdoor kitchen pretty much. There's a sink and everything like that that goes there as well, and I put like a backsplash and some lights and some like kitchen bits and bobs like oil and like sauce and stuff like that. So it's like a little outdoor kitchen without the oven. But yeah, I'm happy with how the outside area turns out. It is very simple. I do bring the whole surrounding area of the house, sorry, is like bushes and stuff, and I do go in and I add in flowers around there because I just felt like it needed a little bit something extra. But I bring those bushes sort of like down into the sort of garden courtyard area, and I really like how it looks. So it's kind of like it's growing down into the into the garden area, so sort of kind of bringing that sort of undergroundy look without it being super like covered in dirt or rocks or stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really happy with how the build turns out as a whole, and from having like a few different inspiration pieces, like I said at the beginning, from the image that I saw, and then also just wanting to build another sort of underground style home, but not being fully sort of like underground where it's covered in dirt and rocks and stuff like that. I think that this one turned out really well. The other thing, I did sort of try and custom make a sliding door for the outside area of this build. I used the handrails that are in the game, and I put them on one of the glass panels to act as if, like, you know, it's a sliding door. I think it gives the general effect, so I'm happy with how that turned out. But yeah, the whole wall is pretty much windows, and then that leads out to the little courtyard area with some plants and stuff like that. And I think it was a good idea to try and bring the plants from the top sort of like down, so they're sort of like growing down into the little garden area. And then there's a cherry blossom tree in this sort of like garden section, which I really wanted. It's one of the original cherry blossom trees, it's not one of the ones from the Sakura DLC. But yeah, that is pretty much it. I do go in and I add some little bits and bobs here and there, like little extra bits that I don't show, like putting in the bins and the bikes and stuff like that out in the sort of like main entrance area of the house. And then other little bits, like I go in and I add some stuff with the Sakura DLC, and so it's not like tons and tons. As I said, I was expecting to add like tons of stuff from the Sakura DLC, but I didn't add in a lot. It was just like mainly some plants and little like decorative bits and bobs, as this was pretty much the whole build is said like finished before the Sakura DLC come out. But I'm really happy with how it turned out, with the different inspirations and stuff that I had. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of this build. I really do hope that you enjoy it. But yeah, I will leave this one here. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to check out this video. I really do appreciate it. As always, there are timestamps if you would like to skip around to like different sections of the build, or just check out the tour, screenshots, all that kind of stuff. I just really do appreciate you guys being here and taking the time to check out this video. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already and you would like to. Check out some of the other videos, leave comments, let me know what you like about this build. Let me know if you have a favorite room, how you would have decorated it, all that kind of stuff. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye.